Right. So, hopefully I said everything properly, with the voice and all that stuff. This is actually like the second attempt recording because the first two ones, there was too much wind and it almost blew down the tripod. In the second one, there was an issue with the noise. So, hopefully this one here works just fine. But yeah, it's a 1224 here. Got a nice, beautiful little background, in this little park that I live next by. And today we're talking about Matthew 7:24 to 27. So this is the parable of the rock and the sand foundation, of the wise man that had his house built on the rocks, and the foolish man that had his hands that had his that had his house built on the sand. And so the wise man's house is his life and is his kingdom that God has given him. And the rock that it was built upon is Christ. Isaiah tells us, the rock the builders rejected became the cornerstone. Christ is referring to himself when he says the man is wise. We know from Proverbs that the beginning of all wisdom is the fear of God, right? And so the wise man, being a God-fearing man, builds his kingdom on the principles that Christ laid before him. Now, what are those principles? Those principles are... Hold on, I'm after blanking out. Oh my days, hold on. This is very embarrassing, hold on. Nice day outside today. Very nice day outside today. The sun is like burning my back. I'm actually just blanked out. Alright, sorry. Those principles are living in accordance with the Holy Spirit. Now, living in accordance with the Holy Spirit looks like denying your flesh. Looks like putting down your phone so you can stop doom scrolling. It looks like quitting the old sinful habits that you had. Let us say that you had a habit of pornography, a habit of smoking, a habit of drinking, a habit of fighting. Put it down, those habits, and nail them to the cross so you can follow God. That's how living in the principles of Christ is. And the wise man who builds his house, who builds his life, who builds his kingdom based on those principles is wise, because when the winds come, when you go further down the parable, it talks about winds and rains of life comes and bashes upon his house. His life doesn't go anywhere, his kingdom doesn't go anywhere because it's based on Christ. Now, what are the winds that come? The winds that come are the situations that can affect us emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. Because ultimately, when something happens in your life, you're affected physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Right? Those are the ways that you're affected. So the winds of life are the situations that can cause him, for example, to feel insecure. The situation, for example, that can cause him to have anxiety, to feel sad, to feel depressed. What he says about his life not being flown the other say is because the principles that he lives upon, which is Christ, are what keep him stable, because his strength doesn't come from him, it comes from someone that's greater than him. That's what he means by that. Now, the second set of the parable, actually, with the foolish man, I actually felt convicted, actually. I felt like the foolish man writing this. When I was in the spirit writing this, I genuinely felt like I was the foolish man. The foolish man who built his house on sand is someone that built his house on literally anything but Christ. It's quite literally that simple. The foolish man is the person who built his house on literally anything but Christ. So what does that mean? He built his house, he built his life, he built his kingdom based on how much money he has. He built his kingdom based on how great he is. He built his kingdom based on how others view him. Because ultimately, when the winds of life are going to come and... I just saw something a little weird there. But when the winds of life are going to come and bash at his house, when he's going to be affected spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally, he will crumble and fall because he's using his own limited willpower and his own limited strength to combat things that are infinitely greater than he is. That's essentially it, because his strength isn't coming from God, it's coming from himself. And let's face it, our strength is very finite. I experienced this myself. Your willpower, you only have so much willpower, honestly. And I'm not saying this to demotivate you, but I'm saying this for you to understand that your power and your strength doesn't come from yourself, it comes from God. So that when you are tempted, the strength to overcome the temptation comes from God. The supernatural strength to overcome temptations, to not let your feelings cloud the truth of the scriptures, come from God. And that's why the wise man is wise, because he understands this and stops relying on himself. Lean not on your understanding, but lean on the Lord's. He starts to do that essentially. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. And the question today is, which person are you? Are you the wise man that is building his life based on what Christ's principles are? Based on love, truth, affective, gentleness, based on the fruits of the spirits. Love, peace, gentleness, and so on and so forth. I actually done them all off by heart. I actually need to done this off by heart. But yeah, are you the wise man that's doing that? Or are you the foolish man that's building his house on literally anything else? Quite literally anything else but the principles that Christ set out before you. I hope that this touches someone's heart out there, and have a blessed day, everybody.